The cold silence of space is pierced by the sleek alien ships that silently glide toward Earth, hidden from the view of human radar. These ships, equipped with advanced cloaking technology, make no sound as they approach, unnoticed by Earth's defense systems. In the dark depths of space, they represent a silent and calculated force, watching, waiting. The aliens who occupy these ships are far beyond humanity in terms of technology, intellect, and emotion. Their race, known for their cold logic and unemotional nature, has one goal: to study and gather data about Earth's inhabitants. These aliens are not here to conquer or invade, at least, not yet. They have come to observe and understand human biology. Their mission is clear and simple: gather information on Earth's unique creatures and bring that data back to their High Council. The aliens have analyzed countless other species across the galaxy, but Earth, with its complex mix of diverse life, is unlike anything they have encountered before. Their scientists, driven by reason and precision, see Earth's inhabitants as nothing more than fascinating subjects to study. But their cold, calculated approach is about to be challenged by something entirely unexpected. Among the aliens is Zyra, a young researcher who is different from her colleagues. While most of her kind are fascinated by the cold, logical aspects of biological data, how cells function, how genes are passed down, Zyra's curiosity lies beyond mere anatomy. She finds herself drawn to the deeper mystery of humanity, the one thing her species cannot fully understand: human emotions. Unlike the aliens, who see emotions as a weakness, Zyra begins to wonder if there's more to humans than their biology. What is it that drives them to fight, to survive, to protect each other, despite their physical limitations? Zyra is captivated by humans' emotional responses to danger and hardship. While her colleagues are content to analyze the numbers and charts, she wants to understand the feeling behind every heartbeat, every breath, every act of courage. She secretly begins observing humans from a distance. She watches them in their natural habitats, studying their daily interactions, their facial expressions, and how they respond to stress and fear. Her interest grows as she sees how humans push themselves beyond their physical limits in times of crisis. Her fascination peaks when she witnesses a battle between humans and an invading alien fleet. The humans, outnumbered and technologically inferior, are fighting for their survival. As laser beams cut through the air and explosions rattle the ground, Zyra watches in awe as one human soldier, John, stands out among the chaos. John is not the biggest, nor the most technologically advanced soldier on the battlefield. In fact, his equipment is outdated compared to the advanced weapons of the alien invaders. But John's fighting spirit is unlike anything Zyra has ever seen. Despite the overwhelming odds, he fights with an intensity that no machine, no matter how advanced, can replicate. He charges headfirst into danger, not out of recklessness, but out of sheer determination. His face is bloodied, his body battered, but he never stops. He fights for his comrades, for his people, driven by an emotion that is foreign to Zyra: love for his home, his friends, his very existence. As the battle rages on, Zyra cannot tear her eyes away. She watches John push through the pain, surviving injuries that would have taken down any other soldier. At one point, he is pinned down by an alien commander, but he doesn't give up. With his comrades fighting alongside him, John refuses to retreat, even when the enemy's technology seems unbeatable. His emotions, fear, love, anger, fuel his every move. Zyra's mind races, struggling to comprehend how a being so physically vulnerable can withstand such pressure and continue fighting. She's seen countless species fall in the face of stronger enemies, but humans are different. Their emotional drive seems to make them indestructible. Zyra can't understand it: how can a human soldier, with such primitive technology and fragile biology, be so powerful? What is it that gives them such strength, such willpower, when everything around them suggests they should fail? Her questions multiply with each passing moment, and she becomes obsessed with finding answers. She realizes that there is a deeper connection between human anatomy and emotions, something that no alien species, including hers, has ever understood. As the battle concludes, John's survival against all odds leaves Zyra stunned. She watches as he stands, bloodied but triumphant, helping his comrades who are still standing. He never once stops to think of his own safety, always focused on the welfare of others. Zyra is speechless. Her logical mind cannot make sense of what she has witnessed. She thought humans were fragile and weak, yet in that moment, they seemed indestructible. Their ability to fight for each other, to never give up no matter the odds, makes them appear stronger than any technology she has ever seen. The impact of this moment on Zyra is profound. She can no longer see humans as mere subjects to be studied. They are something more, something powerful, something resilient. Her scientific curiosity is now intertwined with a deeper, more personal obsession, understanding human emotions and the mysterious force that makes them so powerful. Zyra's fascination with human anatomy transforms into an obsession. She decides to study them more closely, not just as biological specimens, but as emotional creatures. She spends days observing John and his comrades, studying how their emotions shape their strength. The more she observes, the more she becomes convinced that emotions are the key to understanding human power. She secretly begins to collect data on their interactions, their fears, their joys, and their struggles. This critical moment marks the beginning of Zyra's internal conflict. She is torn between her mission to study humans for the cold alien High Council and her growing admiration for their emotional depth. She realizes that the more she learns, the more she will have to choose between her loyalty to her own species and her fascination with the humans she has come to respect. What will she do when the time comes to make that choice? Zyra sat alone in the sterile lab aboard the alien ship, her eyes glued to the glowing screens before her. The soft hum of the ship's systems was a constant background noise, but today, it seemed almost irrelevant. She was no longer focused on the data her colleagues had gathered, she had something more important on her mind, the humans. Her mission had been clear: study the biological makeup of Earth's creatures and gather data for the alien High Council. However, Zyra had begun to drift away from that objective. What had started as a scientific curiosity had blossomed into an obsession. She couldn't stop thinking about the human soldier she had observed, John. The way he fought, the way he refused to give up, no matter how dire the situation. It was not logical, not something she could explain with the cold, rational mindset of her species. For days, Zyra had been collecting samples, human blood, muscle tissue, and even saliva, carefully preserving them in vials for analysis. But she wasn't just collecting data for the council anymore, she was trying to unlock a mystery that her species had never encountered before. Her scanners revealed the incredible regenerative power of human muscle tissue. When a human was injured, the damage could heal rapidly, often faster than any other species Zyra had studied. How could they recover so quickly from trauma? Their biology was resilient, but not in a way that made sense to her logical mind. Other species didn't heal like this. Why were humans so different? Zyra also noticed something strange during her observations. Despite their physical vulnerability, humans seemed to thrive in the most extreme conditions. She had watched them survive environments where most other species would have perished: high temperatures, extreme cold, even radiation. And it wasn't just the physical environment that they could endure, it was the emotional turmoil, too. While other species would break down under stress, humans often seemed to rise to the occasion. They had a remarkable ability to adapt, to survive, to protect one another. Zyra couldn't understand it. It was as if their strength wasn't just a product of their physical bodies, but something more, a deep, intangible force that came from within. This was the part that fascinated Zyra the most. It wasn't just the humans' bodies, it was their emotions. The emotional bonds they shared, the way they fought not just for survival, but for each other, was beyond anything Zyra had ever seen. Her people were logical, calculating, and unemotional. The concept of sacrificing oneself for another seemed illogical. Why risk your life for someone else? What could possibly drive a being to do such a thing? But here, watching John and his comrades, Zyra saw this strange, powerful force at work. John's emotional depth, the way he fought to protect his friends, the way he was willing to die to save them, was something she couldn't explain. It was powerful, and it was real. For the first time in her life, Zyra felt a shift within her. She had always been confident in the superiority of her race, with their intellect and technology. But now, she wasn't so sure. How could a species so emotionally driven be so resilient, so strong? How could their emotions, something that Zyra's kind considered to be a weakness, be fueling their strength? The more she studied, the more her confusion deepened. It was as if every human she observed had a hidden power that no scanner or probe could capture. It was something intangible, something that went beyond biology. As Zyra continued her research, her thoughts often wandered back to John. She found herself fascinated not just by his physical capabilities, but by the raw emotion that seemed to emanate from him. She couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to feel that kind of passion, that kind of dedication to others. Her own emotions had always been suppressed, kept under control by the rigid structure of her society. To experience human emotions, even for a moment, seemed like an impossible dream. But Zyra's fascination with John went beyond mere curiosity. There was something about his willingness to sacrifice everything for those he cared about that struck a chord deep within her. She began to question everything she had been taught. Was it possible that her species had been wrong? Was it possible that emotions weren't a weakness, but a strength? As much as she wanted to stay focused on her mission, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Could this human soldier, with his passion and love for his comrades, truly be stronger than any alien technology? Was there more to human power than physical abilities or advanced machinery? Zyra's obsession continued to grow, and she found herself spending hours poring over every detail of John's actions, every word he spoke, every expression on his face. She watched as he interacted with others, noticing how he always put others before himself, even when it seemed like the cost was too great. He was the embodiment of something Zyra had never understood, something that was both powerful and deeply emotional. But the alien High Council had noticed her shift in focus. They had received her reports and analyzed her findings, but they were growing concerned. Their objective was clear: gather information, return with data, and continue their studies. The Council had no interest in emotions, they valued logic, precision, and results. Zyra's growing obsession with human emotions was seen as a distraction from the mission, a deviation from the cold, analytical approach they expected. One day, Zyra received an order from the High Council. She was to cease her unauthorized study of human emotions and return to the original mission focus. They had no time for distractions, especially not for something as illogical as emotional bonding. They demanded that she gather only the biological data necessary for their research and return to the ship's primary directive. But Zyra's mind was elsewhere. She could not ignore what she had learned. The more she observed, the more she felt herself drawn to John's emotional strength. She had seen her people conquer entire civilizations with their technology, but none of it had ever felt as powerful as the human spirit she was beginning to understand. Her curiosity had turned into something much deeper, an obsession that she could not simply turn off. Despite the Council's orders, Zyra made a decision. She would continue her research, no matter the cost. She had to understand how these humans could be so strong, how their emotions could fuel their power. For the first time in her life, Zyra was ready to defy her people for something she believed in. The Council could not see it, but she now understood that the true power of humanity was not in their technology, but in their hearts. Zyra stood in the shadows of the human city, her heart racing. She had always prided herself on her ability to remain calm, logical, and composed, traits that were essential for her work as a researcher. But now, her emotions were clouding her judgment, and it terrified her. She had gone rogue. Defying the alien council wasn't just a minor mistake, it was a dangerous decision. If they found out, she could be stripped of her rank, exiled, or worse. But she couldn't stop herself. The more she learned about humans, the more she realized she was crossing a line that would be impossible to return from. Over the past few weeks, Zyra had begun conducting experiments without the Council's approval, gathering data in secret. She knew it was risky, but her curiosity about the human spirit and emotions had grown too strong to ignore. She had to know more. She had to understand what made humans so different from her cold, logical race. So, she carefully collected her findings, hidden from the watchful eyes of the Council, and began to observe humans up close, specifically, a human soldier named John. Zyra's fascination with John had only deepened. She had seen him fight on the battlefield, but now, she watched him from a distance in the everyday moments of his life. She followed him as he trained with his comrades, listened to him share stories of loss and triumph, and even witnessed him comforting his friends after they had been through hell. It was a side of humanity she had never expected to find, raw, vulnerable, and deeply emotional. She began to learn about human pain. The kind of pain that seemed to be a constant companion in their lives. John had lost many friends in battle, and the weight of those losses was always with him. But it wasn't just the pain of loss that intrigued Zyra, it was how humans coped with it. Despite the agony they faced, they pressed forward. They fought through their pain, never allowing it to define them. To Zyra, this was an enigma. How could they carry such heavy burdens without breaking? How could they keep going when everything around them was crumbling? It was as though their emotions fueled them, giving them strength when their bodies were exhausted. Love was another emotion Zyra began to understand. She watched as John interacted with his comrades, offering support and encouragement when they were down. She saw the way they relied on one another, not just in battle, but in every aspect of life. There was a bond between them that went beyond mere friendship. It was something deeper, something that made them stronger as a unit. Zyra had always considered love to be a weakness, an emotional distraction that clouded judgment. But now, seeing how humans used love to protect and defend each other, she began to see its true power. Love was a force that united them, something far more potent than she had ever imagined. Then there was fear. Zyra had never known fear in the way humans did. For her, fear was a distant concept, something that could be easily controlled with logic. But when she watched John and his comrades face overwhelming odds, she saw a different kind of fear. It was a fear that came with the understanding that they might not survive, that they might lose everything. But instead of running from it, they embraced it. They fought with everything they had, knowing that death could be right around the corner. To Zyra, it was a paradox. How could fear make them stronger? How could something so crippling fuel their drive to survive? Anger, too, was an emotion that fascinated her. She had seen John become enraged when his comrades were harmed, his rage burning like a fire. But unlike the cold, calculated anger of her species, humans channeled their fury into action. They didn't just lash out, they fought back. Zyra saw how anger drove them to protect what they cared about, to push beyond their limits in ways that no alien technology could replicate. It was raw, untamed, and terrifying, but it was also beautiful in its own way. Zyra had always believed that emotions were a weakness, something that clouded the mind and interfered with logical decision-making. But as she watched John and his comrades fight, live, and love, she began to see emotions as something far more complex. Emotions were not just weaknesses. They were the very things that made humans powerful. Their ability to feel, to care, to fight for each other, it gave them strength in ways that her people's cold logic never could. To gain even deeper insight, Zyra took a dangerous step. Disguising herself as a human, she infiltrated their ranks. It was a risky move, but she needed to understand them from within. Her alien form was hidden beneath the human disguise, but it wasn't just about physical appearances, it was about understanding their experiences. She wanted to feel what they felt, see the world through their eyes. As she mingled with the humans, she saw their camaraderie, their struggles, and their unshakable determination. During her time among them, Zyra witnessed something extraordinary, the humans' ability to fight back against powerful alien forces. She watched as they fought not just for their survival, but for each other. The soldiers were willing to sacrifice themselves for their comrades, to take impossible risks, knowing they might not return. Zyra had seen her people conquer entire civilizations with advanced technology, but none of it had ever felt as powerful as the human spirit she was now witnessing. The human soldiers' passion for each other, whether it was the bond between family members, friends, or comrades, was a force that fueled their fighting spirit. Zyra watched in awe as John led his team into battle against forces much stronger than they were. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. But they refused to back down. They fought with everything they had, driven by emotions that Zyra had never known, love, fear, pain, and anger, all intertwined to create a strength beyond logic, beyond technology. The more Zyra observed, the more she realized that these emotions gave humans an advantage no alien technology could replicate. It wasn't just about physical strength or advanced weapons, it was about the heart. She now understood that emotions weren't a weakness. They were the key to human power, something that no one, alien or human, could ever take away. The air on the battlefield was thick with smoke, and the sounds of explosions echoed in every direction. The once pristine sky was now filled with the chaos of war. John, battered and exhausted, fought alongside his comrades against the invading alien fleet. But even with their advanced technology, the humans were outmatched, outnumbered, and struggling to keep their ground. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a strange figure appeared on the horizon, Zyra. She emerged from the thick smoke, her alien ship cloaking device deactivated. With swift precision, she dove into the fray, taking out enemies with lethal efficiency. John, still reeling from the intensity of the battle, saw her movement and froze. Despite everything that had happened, despite his growing distrust of her, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of relief. Zyra was here. She was saving them. In a daring move, Zyra swooped in just in time to pull John out of harm's way as an enemy ship launched a devastating blast directly at him. Her quick thinking and impeccable timing saved his life. As the dust settled, John stood up, shaken but alive, staring at her with a mix of gratitude and suspicion. It wasn't the first time she had come to his rescue, but this time, the feeling was different. There was something about her that didn't sit right, something he couldn't place. And now, he had to know the truth. Why? John's voice was cold and demanding, the words slicing through the tense atmosphere. Why do you keep saving me? Who are you really? Zyra stood there, her alien eyes scanning him with a mixture of hesitation and regret. She had been dreading this moment, knowing it was inevitable. She had known from the start that John would eventually figure it out. The connection between them, the curiosity she had allowed to grow inside her, it was all too strong to hide any longer. I am not who I seem, Zyra finally admitted, her voice barely a whisper. The weight of her confession hung heavy between them. She took a step back, as if preparing for his reaction. I am an alien researcher sent by my race to study human anatomy. My mission was to gather information on your biology and report back to the High Council. John's heart sank, the betrayal hitting him like a physical blow. The anger that had been bubbling beneath the surface for weeks erupted in full force. He clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. How could she do this to him? How could she, someone who had saved him, someone he had come to trust, be a part of the invasion? You were spying on us, John spat, his voice seething with fury. All this time, you were just using us, using me, to get information about our weaknesses. You don't care about us at all. We're just specimens to you. Zyra flinched at the harshness in his words, her gaze dropping to the ground in shame. No, she said softly, the words catching in her throat. I never meant to hurt you. When I first arrived, I only wanted to observe, understand your biology. But something changed. You humans are different from anything I could have imagined. Your emotions, your drive, your resilience, they're beyond anything we can comprehend. I became fascinated. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I became obsessed with understanding what makes you so powerful. John stood frozen, his anger and confusion swirling inside him. He wanted to yell, to call her a liar, but a part of him hesitated. The truth was harder to ignore. Zyra wasn't just an alien spy. She was someone who had spent weeks learning about humanity, observing him and his comrades up close, and she wasn't doing it out of malice. In fact, it seemed like she cared, too much. But betrayal was betrayal. The hurt from her deception was sharp, cutting deeper than any physical wound he had endured. You had no right, he said, his voice tight with pain. You lied to us. And now, you're trying to act like you care. You can't just change who you are. Zyra stood silently, the guilt weighing her down. She understood his anger. She knew she had crossed a line, but she couldn't ignore what she had learned. Her people, her cold, calculating race, would never understand the power of human emotions. They saw them as flaws, as weaknesses. But to Zyra, those emotions were the key to something much greater. They were the fuel behind the strength that had allowed humans to survive time and time again. And now, she couldn't imagine returning to her people, to the cold, emotionless existence she had once accepted as the only way of life. I don't want to go back, Zyra said quietly, her voice trembling. I can't. Not after everything I've seen, not after everything I've learned. John shook his head, his expression filled with disbelief. You think you can just stay here? You think we'll accept you after everything you've done? I don't know, she whispered. But I know that what I've learned from you, the way you fight, the way you care for each other, it's changed me. I can't go back to my people. I don't belong there anymore. The tension between them was thick, heavy with the weight of betrayal and confusion. For a moment, John didn't know what to say. He had seen so much, Zyra's strength, her intelligence, and her growing attachment to humanity. But now, faced with her confession, everything had shifted. Could he trust her again? Was her change of heart genuine, or was it just another tactic? The sound of approaching alien ships interrupted his thoughts. The High Council had noticed her actions. Zyra's defection hadn't gone unnoticed, and now she would be forced to answer for her decisions. I have to go, Zyra said, her voice barely audible as she stepped back, her eyes meeting John's one last time. They'll come for me soon. I don't know what will happen next, but I can't return to them. I've seen enough to know that I can never go back. With that, she disappeared into the shadows, leaving John standing alone, torn between anger and a strange, uncertain sense of loss. The betrayal was too fresh, too raw, and yet a part of him couldn't help but wonder if, somehow, there was a chance for redemption. As the sound of alien ships grew louder, John knew that this was far from over. The stakes had just risen, and everything was about to change. The battle for Earth was only beginning, and now Zyra was an unwilling ally, one who might hold the key to their survival. Zyra's heart pounded in her chest as the harsh reality of her situation settled in. She had crossed a line that no one in her cold, calculated alien race could ever forgive. Her pursuit of knowledge had led her down a dangerous path, one that had started with innocent curiosity but now found her at a crossroads. On one side, she had the alien High Council, her people, and her mission. On the other, she had the humans she had come to care for, those she had watched, studied, and ultimately learned to admire. And now, she was faced with an impossible choice: return to the alien council and face certain punishment, or stay with the humans she had come to love, risking her own life in the process. The message came in abruptly, slicing through the tension that had been building for days. It was from the High Council, sent through a secure communication link. There was no time for hesitation. The words on the screen were clear and unforgiving: abandon Earth, or face execution. Zyra stared at the message for a long time, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on her shoulders. Her mind raced as she replayed everything that had led her to this point. The battles she had fought alongside the humans, the quiet moments of reflection she had shared with John, the moments when she had seen their emotional strength, and most importantly, how those emotions had given them an edge that her people could never have imagined. She had learned too much. She couldn't go back. The High Council had never understood the humans. To them, emotions were weaknesses, distractions from the cold, logical pursuit of knowledge. But Zyra knew better now. She had seen firsthand how these emotions fueled the humans' abilities in ways that their technology never could. It was their bonds, their determination, and their love for one another that gave them strength. Strength that no alien weapon or tactical superiority could overcome. But now, facing the Council's ultimatum, Zyra knew that there was no turning back. Her race would never accept her newfound beliefs. They would never accept her decision to side with the humans. As the minutes ticked by, the decision weighed on her. The Council was ruthless, and her defection would mean death. She had already seen what they were capable of when it came to punishing traitors. And yet, staying with her people meant betraying everything she had come to believe in. It meant turning her back on the very emotions that had captivated her. It meant returning to a life of cold logic and sterile calculations, devoid of the passion and love that humans held so dear. In the end, Zyra made her choice. With a deep breath, she tapped a few commands into the communication panel, sending her response to the High Council. The words she typed were clear, direct, and final: I choose Earth. The moment she sent the message, she felt a strange sense of freedom. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. She had chosen to betray her people, but in doing so, she had chosen a new path. A path where she could fight for something she believed in. A path where she could stand with the humans, not as an alien spy, but as a true ally. Zyra knew that this was a dangerous decision. The High Council would not take it lightly. They would come for her, and they would come fast. But she also knew that she could not let the humans fight alone. They had something that her people could never understand, and she was determined to help them unlock that potential. She wasted no time. Immediately, Zyra contacted John, her voice urgent and determined. "John," she said, her tone serious, "I've made my decision. I can't go back. The Council has given me an ultimatum: abandon Earth, or face execution. But I won't leave. I'm staying with you, with all of you." John's response was immediate. There was no hesitation in his voice. "We've got your back, Zyra. You're one of us now." But even as John spoke, Zyra knew that things were about to get much worse. The Council would not let her go so easily. They would send their best forces to track her down, and they would stop at nothing to make an example out of her. The humans, now aware of the true nature of her mission and the threat that loomed over her, rallied together. Zyra had become an invaluable asset to their fight. In the time she had spent studying the human anatomy, she had discovered things that were beyond her race's understanding, hidden potentials within their biology that could turn the tide of the war. She had learned that human cells, in response to extreme emotional stress, could regenerate faster and more efficiently than any alien technology had ever predicted. This made humans incredibly resilient, able to survive injuries that would have crippled other species. She had also uncovered a way to harness that biological response, enhancing it with alien technology. It was a weapon unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Now, Zyra was using her knowledge to help the humans. She shared everything she had learned, teaching them how to enhance their physical strength, speed, and endurance. She worked tirelessly alongside their scientists and medics, helping them understand how to tap into the hidden power of their biology. It was during one of these sessions that Zyra made a breakthrough. She had developed a serum, an injection derived from a combination of human and alien biology, that could temporarily amplify a human's physical abilities. It wasn't permanent, but it could give the humans a crucial edge in battle. John was the first volunteer. He was always the first to step up, always the first to fight for his comrades. And when he injected the serum, the results were immediate. His strength increased tenfold, his senses sharpened, and his reflexes became lightning fast. He was no longer just a soldier, he was a force to be reckoned with. Zyra watched in awe as John tested his newfound abilities. This was the key to victory. This was the edge they needed to defeat the alien forces. And it was all thanks to her decision to stay with them. But as the serum began to take effect, Zyra knew that the clock was ticking. The Alien Council would not wait forever. They would soon launch an all-out assault on Earth, determined to eliminate her and the humans who had helped her. The war for Earth was entering a new phase. The humans were no longer the underdogs. With Zyra's knowledge and their own unyielding determination, they were ready to fight back. The time for hiding was over. Now, it was time for war. As the first wave of alien ships approached Earth, Zyra and John stood side by side, ready to face whatever came next. Their bond was stronger than ever, and together, they would fight to protect the planet they both now called home. The atmosphere on Earth grew thick with tension as the alien fleet approached, their ships darkening the sky. The ground trembled with the promise of the battle to come. The final conflict between humanity and the alien forces was imminent. The stakes had never been higher, and the humans were ready to defend their world with everything they had. With Zyra's knowledge and their advanced technology, they had one last chance to secure victory. Zyra stood alongside John and his team, overlooking the massive alien armada. Her heart raced as she thought of the immense power the aliens had brought with them, vast fleets capable of destroying cities in seconds. Yet, this time, the humans were not the underdogs they had once been. Thanks to Zyra's research, the human forces were equipped with advanced power armor and cloaking devices that could keep them hidden from the enemy's radar. They had a fighting chance, and they were ready to take it. The alien fleet launched their first wave of orbital bombardments. Massive beams of energy tore through the sky, decimating entire regions of Earth's surface. Buildings crumbled, cities burned, and the Earth itself seemed to shake under the force of the attacks. It was as if the aliens were trying to wipe humanity off the map in one fell swoop. But even in the face of such destruction, the humans did not falter. They had a reason to fight. Their lives, their homes, and their future depended on it. Zyra watched, her alien mind analyzing every move. She knew that despite their advanced technology, the aliens were limited by their cold, logical thinking. They didn't understand the depth of the emotional power that drove the humans. That was where she came in. She had seen firsthand how human emotions, love, loyalty, and hope, could fuel their strength. Now, she was going to help them use that strength to its fullest. With her insights into human anatomy, Zyra helped to coordinate the human forces. She knew exactly how to amplify the effects of the power armor, making them even more powerful. As the battle raged on, John and his team led the charge, cloaked from the enemy's view. They moved swiftly, taking down alien soldiers one by one, using their superior tactics and newfound strength to outsmart their technologically advanced foes. The battle was fierce, with explosions lighting up the sky and gunfire filling the air. Zyra's heart raced as she watched the humans fight with incredible courage, using every bit of their training and resolve to hold their ground. But despite their efforts, the aliens continued to push forward, relentless in their mission to conquer Earth. Then, in a heart-stopping moment, the worst happened. John, the soldier she had come to respect and care for, was struck by a powerful blast from an alien weapon. He fell to the ground, his body badly wounded, blood pooling around him. The battle seemed to stop for a brief moment, as Zyra rushed to his side, her hands trembling with fear. "John," she cried out, her voice cracking. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she knelt beside him, trying to stop the bleeding. John's face was pale, his breathing shallow, but his eyes still held the fire of determination. He looked up at Zyra, a faint smile playing at the corner of his lips. "Zyra," he whispered, his voice weak but filled with resolve. We can still win." Tears welled in Zyra's eyes as she held his hand. The bond between them had grown stronger than she ever imagined. She had come to understand humanity's greatest strength, its ability to fight, to hope, and to love, even in the face of death. As John's life began to slip away, she realized that this was the true power of humanity. It was not in their advanced technology or their strength in battle, but in their willingness to sacrifice everything for each other. John's breath grew shallow as Zyra held him close, feeling his pulse slow. His hand tightened around hers for one final time. "Protect them," he whispered, his voice filled with the weight of a soldier's final request. "Protect Earth." With those last words, John's eyes closed for the final time, and Zyra felt his presence slip away. The battle raged on around her, but in that moment, the world seemed to freeze. Zyra's heart shattered as she realized the depth of the sacrifice John had made. He had given everything for the people he loved, for the planet he had sworn to protect. But as the tears fell, something inside Zyra shifted. She could feel the anger rising, but it was not the kind of anger she had known before. It wasn't the cold, calculated rage of her alien race. No, this was different. This was a fire that burned with love, loyalty, and the memory of all the sacrifices made by the humans. John's death had ignited it in her heart, and now it was her turn to fight, not just for survival, but for the future of humanity. Zyra stood up, wiping the tears from her eyes. She felt a surge of power, of resolve, unlike anything she had ever known. With John's memory burning in her heart, she knew what she had to do. She could not let his death be in vain. The humans would win. She would make sure of it. She turned to the battlefield, where John's team continued to fight with incredible ferocity, knowing that they were no longer alone. Zyra, now fully aligned with the humans, joined the fray. She used her alien knowledge to enhance their abilities even further, guiding them to outsmart and outmaneuver the alien forces. It wasn't just technology or power that would win this war, it was the spirit of humanity, their unbreakable will to protect their own, and to never give up, no matter the cost. The final battle reached its peak as the humans, led by Zyra's guidance and their own unyielding resolve, launched a final assault on the alien fleet. The skies above Earth erupted in fire as ships clashed, and explosions filled the air. But this time, the humans were the ones who held the upper hand. In a dramatic and explosive scene, the tide of battle turned. The aliens, overwhelmed by the humans' unexpected strength and unity, began to retreat. The once invincible fleet was now in disarray. The humans had won. But the victory came at a cost. John, the hero who had led them, was gone. His sacrifice had fueled their victory, and now, it was up to Zyra to carry on his legacy. With the alien forces retreating, Earth was safe, for now. But the memory of the final stand, and of the bond Zyra had shared with the humans, would live on forever. The dust of the final battle settled over Earth like a heavy shroud. The once immense alien fleet, which had loomed in the sky like an unstoppable force, was now shattered. The humans had triumphed, but the cost had been high. The battle had left scars on the planet, on its people, and on Zyra herself. The victory was bittersweet. Zyra stood at the edge of a vast battlefield, the sun beginning to rise over the horizon, casting a golden light over the ruins. Her alien eyes scanned the landscape, taking in the wreckage of the alien ships scattered across the ground. Earth was free once more, but the price of that freedom weighed heavily on her heart. The death of John, the man who had become so much more than just a soldier in her eyes, haunted her. His sacrifice had been the turning point of the battle, the catalyst that had driven the humans to victory. But it had come at the greatest cost, the life of the very person who had shown her the strength of humanity. Zyra had never fully understood what made humans so powerful. She had seen them fight with desperation, with courage, and with unyielding will. But it wasn't until she had witnessed John's final moments that she truly understood. Human strength didn't come from their bodies alone. It came from their hearts, their minds, and their ability to connect with one another. It was their love, their loyalty, and their hope that made them strong, and it was these emotions that had driven them to win the war. As the days passed, the humans began to rebuild. The planet was scarred, but its people were resilient. They set to work restoring their cities, tending to the wounded, and honoring the fallen. But as much as the humans had suffered, they also had a sense of hope. They had survived. They had won. And with that victory came a sense of unity, of purpose, that had never existed before. Zyra had played a pivotal role in the battle. Her knowledge of human anatomy and emotions had helped the humans unlock new potential, and her alien technology had given them the edge they needed. But as the dust cleared and the people began to rebuild, Zyra realized that she could no longer remain apart from them. She had witnessed their strength, their resilience, and their unwavering spirit. She had come to care for them, especially for John, whose legacy now lived on in the hearts of those who had fought beside him. Zyra's decision was a difficult one. She had once been an outsider, a cold observer, studying the humans from a distance. But now, she had seen firsthand what made them extraordinary. It wasn't just their physical abilities, it was the depth of their emotions, the way they cared for one another, the way they fought not just for themselves but for each other. That was something her own people had never truly understood. In the days that followed, Zyra made her choice. She would stay with the humans, not as a researcher or a cold observer, but as a member of their colony. She would fight alongside them, help them rebuild, and learn from them. It was a decision that changed everything. She knew it wouldn't be easy. Her people would never understand her decision. But she no longer cared about the approval of her cold, logical race. She had seen the power of humanity's emotions, and that was a strength that could not be denied. As the humans continued to rebuild, Zyra became a symbol of change. She was no longer just an outsider. She was part of their world, part of their future. Her presence among the humans sent a powerful message to her own people: emotions were not a weakness. They were a strength. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was time for her people to learn that lesson too. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Zyra stood on a hill overlooking a newly rebuilt human city. The lights of the city twinkled below her like stars in the night, a symbol of hope and renewal. She had come a long way from the cold, calculating researcher she once was. She had witnessed the depth of humanity's emotions, and in doing so, she had discovered something within herself. The power of love, sacrifice, and hope had changed her. Zyra thought of John again. He was gone, but his memory lived on in the hearts of the humans who had known him. His sacrifice had sparked a fire in her, a fire that would never go out. And now, she had a new mission: to help the humans build a future worthy of that sacrifice. The wind blew softly around her, carrying with it the scent of fresh grass and new beginnings. Zyra's heart, once cold and distant, now felt warm with purpose. She was no longer an alien. She was a part of this world, and her future was intertwined with the humans she had come to love and respect. The horizon stretched out before her, a vast expanse of possibilities. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, Zyra wasn't afraid. She knew that the humans, with their unwavering hearts and minds, could overcome any challenge that lay ahead. And with her help, they would build a future unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. As the sun set on the horizon, casting its final rays of light over the earth, Zyra smiled. She was home. The humans had won, and so had she. The war was over, but the real battle, the battle to build a new world, a better world, was just beginning. And with that, Zyra stepped forward into the future, ready to face whatever came next, alongside the humans who had taught her the true meaning of strength.